Good morning, children. Hope you all are doing well. So, I'm back with another virtual class. So, today I would like to begin on a serious note. Let me share a very prominent and stark reality with you. Okay, it's truth. So, I would expect all of you to listen very intently and carefully. All right. Now, I'm going to talk about particular woman. Okay, this woman is a 42 years old resident of Kananthapuram. She first came to the village 23 years ago when she married a person. Okay. Her current state is that she works as a caregiver to a person with disability in a school in Kananthapuram. But while Kananthapuram is her home, she is treated as an untouchable in the village every single day. Isn't that very ironical? She stays there, yet she is treated as an untouchable. Let me talk about few more women. Gauri is a Dalit woman and the only breadwinner of her family. Her husband has not been able to work for the last 10 years because of health issues. She has to provide for her three children and also for the treatment for her husband. Now, the problem is that being a Dalit, she has to face innumerable thoughts and has to go through innumerable problems. There are 150 Dalit families and above, okay, and 250 caste Hindu families living in this village. So the caste Hindus are the most dominant ones. Now let me get back. Why do you think I'm talking about a Dalit woman, Gauri, and the concept of caste system? Because something that is very relevant and something that is an extremely relevant issue that has come up times immemorial and is still there. But the problem is that even though change has happened and progress is imminent, yet the stigma of casteism is prevalent everywhere in the world, every single where. I have given you one instance, but that does not mean it's only restrained to that particular place. It's prevalent everywhere in the world, in India, in abroad, etc. So, why I'm talking casteism all of a sudden? Because the topic that we are going to do today is a very serious one, and it deals with a a very grave issue of discrimination, and the person who is responsible for trying to instill awareness is Munshi Premchand, who is educated enough to make the readers realize that whatever is happening is immortal and shouldn't have happened, yet it's still prevalent. That's the irony of the situation. So, first, let me talk about the author a bit. The author is Munshi Premchand. The name of the lesson is The Thakur's Well. Again, author Munshi Premchand. Now, let's know about the author. Now, Premchand is the pen name of Dhanpat Rai Srivastava. Munshi Premchand is one of the renowned Hindi Urdu writer all over the globe. All of his writings are based in the Indian subcontinent, exploring the mundane normative practices of the society in pre-independent India. The themes Premchand explores places his novels and short stories into an intense genre for understanding the societal structure of caste and high-born, low-born, and the discriminative practices in the society, its horror and repercussions on the victimized. Among many famous work of Premchand like Godan, Poos Ki Raat, Gaban, and many more, there is a short story named Thakur Ka Kuan, which translates as Thakur's Well in English. It is a story which tells us about the extent simple thirst for water can take one to. Now let's discuss about the title. Now Thakur's Well tells us about those days when feudal customs of caste hierarchies are observed in our villages. Now he writes about inhuman landlords and heartless moneylenders. Then Thakur's Well note the sense of power and ownership in the title itself when it announces that the well belongs to an individual of a particular caste, that is Thakur. The surname is used to make the name more ambiguous, but the reality of exploitation is not left unfounded. The Thakurs were the dominant landed aristocracy at that time and find themselves at the apex of Hindu caste system. The well is a symbol of natural resources and communal wealth. The water of the well represents the necessities and aspirations of oppressed classes. Lower caste people are not allowed to use necessary facilities of the village because of their caste, because they are considered untouchable. Now, upper class people enjoy all these facilities, even though they cheat, steal, gamble, adulterate. Okay, so the story is about the prevailing social conditions of those days. Thus, the title is very appropriate, and Premchand could not have employed another better title for the story. Now, let's discuss the characters. There are two main characters in the story, Joko and his wife Gangi. They belong to the lower strata of the society. In the story, Premchand portrays Gangi as a bold lady who is obliged to serve her husband Joko, not because of compulsion but because of devotion. She is feared of social customs but wish to revolt meekly. She is conscious of her rights but fears the consequences of protest. Okay, so now let's discuss the plot. The plot of the story moves with a simple incident where a Dalit caste severely ill Joku is thirsty and demands water to his wife Gangi. But the well of that caste is polluted and the water is not drinkable because of filthy smell. So she is not able to bring drinkable water, and this tiny twiggy incident has deepest roots. This is the height of exploitation and oppression, that a person who serves someone doesn't deserve even a lota of water. Now let's discuss the theme. As we have already seen, Premchand is the realistic writer. He takes the theme of the Indian society of his time. During those days, untouchability was there in practice. So he chooses this untouchability as a theme of story which was there in vogue. Now, Premchand himself says, I never write a story for the sake of describing the incident and event. I write for only one reason, to present human truth or to show new angle of looking at common and obvious things. So thus, we find Premchand presenting the social realism and the inherent social inequality in the society of his days. So we can say that the story, The Thakur's Well, is the mosaic of realism and untouchability. The tension of the caste system experienced by its victim is brought to light in clear terms. Premchand has been sincere in his selection of material to establish his case against the hereditary division of society into castes. Hypocrisy, cruelty, sadism, immorality, ignorance mingled with traditional beliefs and conformist views play upon the human psyche in setting up one against the other. This has been dramatized throughout the story through the feelings, emotions, recollections, and beliefs of the characters involved. You will come to know more when we read the story. Now, let's start with the summary of the story. Now, but before that, just one question. Each one of us breathes the same air. Shouldn't everyone then have the right to drink water from any well? Let us find out what is special about the Thakur's well. Now, the story starts with a low-born couple, Gangi and Joko. Already I have told you. Now, Joko is very sick and he felt the thirst for water and thus asked Gangi to hand him a lota of water. Now, as he took the lota to his mouth, he flinched away as the water was stinking hell. Gangi took confirmed that the water was stinky and suggested that some creature must have died in the container. But the real problem was Gangi was only allowed to draw water from one well which was far from her home, and she was the only one to go and fetch it every evening. Okay. So the nearest well belonged to the Thakur, who was highborn, if you remember, who would have never allowed her to draw water from his well. So it was a scorching afternoon of summer, and Joku's thirst reached such a level that he was even ready to drink filthy water to quench his thirst. Now Gangi condemned him of drinking it and asked him to be patient as she went out to arrange fresh water for her husband. Now, Joku even warns her regarding the beating and abuse she can receive if she was caught drawing water from the Thakur's well. Now, they were punished if they used to draw water from the Thakur's well. Now, Premchand in this scene has tried to show the misery Lopon had to go through in pre-independent India, and how a natural resource like water was someone's personal property. Now, moving further, it was until late night Gangi waited outside the house of Thakur to creep in like a thief to get some water. Now, Gangi, while waiting for the whole Thakur family to sleep, overheard the conversation of the highborn women. Now, they were complaining about how these Thakurs never come to fetch water and just order the women to do all the stuff as slaves. Though Gangi didn't realize it there, she also was the sole person responsible to bring water to the male of her family. Now here, what we see that Premchand makes the readers realize a deeper fact regarding the oppression all women have to face in one way or another, whether it is low caste or high caste. So now next, the last scene where Gangi creeps into Thakur's courtyard to fetch water is described just like a thief trying to get away with the theft, as if she is a thief. She is a thief. Now, though she manages to get water safely while tiptoeing backward, she was almost caught by the Thakur. She was almost caught. Now, the ending scene of the story shows the helplessness and extent of Joku's thirst has defeated all the effort she put into bringing that one lota of water from the Thakur's well. Okay, so now here the story, let's understand the concept of caste system which the story tells us. Now, though a pathetic situation faced by a so-called untouchable couple, Joku and Gangi, in a caste-conscious Indian society, Munshi Premchand presents the injustice perpetrated on a certain group of humans on the basis of caste system. Now, it suggests the limits within which these pathetic outcast humans can move. In the episode where the story develops, Joku recovering from a serious illness feels thirsty and asks for some water. Now, when Gangi gives him the water in the lota, he expresses repulsion. Now, Gangi realizes something is wrong with the water from its stench. Now, it establishes that the water has been polluted by an animal carcass rotting inside the well. Yet she does not know that the water could be made drinkable by boiling. Now, she is not that much educated that she even doesn't know that she can make the water drinkable by boiling it. Now, shocked by her husband's feeble condition, she is wondering where to find a lota of clean water. Now, ironically, there is a well nearby, but the untouchables are prohibited to draw water from it. It belongs to the Thakur. Now, just see, the natural resource water belongs to the Thakur, who is known as a man of so-called high caste. Now, Gangi goes to the well in the dark and lurks nearby until everybody leaves. Okay. Now, once she feels confident, she starts drawing water. A noise from inside the Thakur's house frightens her. She lets go of the rope and bucket falls into the well. She runs away. On her return home, she finds Joku quenching his thirst with the contaminated water in the lota. So in this situation, what these two persons tell each other, feel about themselves and experience in their surroundings, provide the material for Premchand's indictment of the caste system in India. Now here we come to know about the caste system. Okay, the caste system can be defined as a traditional system of dividing society into hereditary social classes. Now within this system, what happens? Within this system, some people earn respect by birth as members of a high caste, and some often get harassed for being those of a lower caste. Okay, just by birth, not by deeds, but by birth they are divided. Now those who are at the lowest rung of this social ladder are considered untouchables, and unfortunately Gangi and Joko belong to this caste. Now here water has been used as a metaphor. How? Let's see. Now Premchand has wisely used a metaphor, water, that functions as a period of his discussion. It is believed that life evolved in water. Therefore, water is more essential than air for the existence of life. Without a drink of water, no being can live. Now, therefore, this metaphor is well suited in depicting the extent to which a so-called untouchable is deprived of her rights. Further, the thirst that Gangi's husband suffers contributes to the enhancement of this metaphor. She wants to have a lota of clean water only to quench her husband's thirst. Now here the necessity looks elemental. The necessity to have some drinking water in store is different from the immediate need of it for consumption in order to quench one's thirst. Now if one can prohibit a drink of water to a thirsty person, one can even be more ruthless in one's attitude to others. Now he is violating a fundamental law of hospitality. Thus the metaphor of water helps together with his antithesis, thirst, to represent the degree of wickedness inculcated by caste system in the member of caste conscious society. So this is how water has been used as a metaphor in the story by the author. Now, elemental needs versus traditional fears. Now, passing a couple of wells nearby, Gangi has to go to a long distance to bring a pot of water to the house around 9 in the night. Now, the only reason for the prohibition to draw water from these particular wells is a connection with a lower caste, just a division of the caste. She cannot draw water from the nearby well. Now, the fears inculcated in her are enormous. As it is dark, she cannot go to the long distance, escaping from the lustful eyes of the powerful. Now, her husband starts crying for water. Therefore, she goes despite her knowledge of the destiny of people like Mangu. Okay, he was a resident of the same village. He was severely beaten by the Thakur's men for refusing to work in a forced labor gang. Okay, so this is the way the Thakurs used to punish the untouchables to the low caste. Now, without listening to her husband's warning, she musters up enough courage just to draw off water from Thakur's well and enters the Thakur's premises. This gives her an opportunity to experience first-hand the predicament of being there. Okay, now let's see. Whether in the courtroom was the topic of the day. How cleverly the Thakur had bribed the local police chief in a certain case and got off scot-free. With what skill he had managed to get his hands on a copy of the dossier in an important lawsuit. Now this is a conversation from the text. Let's see. Now this suggests Thakur's success as a transgressor. She waits at the well and watches all that takes place at the Thakur's house. Now the idlers who have gathered talk about the court case which the Thakur won by means of bribery. Okay, now he boasts about obtaining a copy of the dossier in the relevant lawsuit in order to establish his innocence. This shows that the Thakur was influential, has influential contacts everywhere. He uses their power to carry out his plans against his rivals. Now, another implication of this situation is that the Thakur is safe in all matters pertaining to the breathing of law. Ironically, implies that his rivals, who are generally the so-called untouchables and dead helpless in his presence. Okay, the injustice faced by the untouchables, even under the institutionalized framework of justice, there is justice everywhere. But when we see this powerful man changes everything, he bribes and changes everything. So it becomes clear in this talk. There is no procedure to protect their rights. Okay, under these circumstances, Thakur continues to be a transgressor of the law. He is one who makes the law, he is one who carries the law and the and order of the country. Okay, so he rules, he makes the laws, he is who bribes up and everything changes. Now, the hypocrisy of the high caste. The realization that arises through Gangi's knowledge of the illicit activities carried out by the so-called high caste people also helps to establish the falsehood of this hereditary division of society. Now, according to her, the Thakur steals a sheep from a shepherd. The priest accommodates a casino in his house. The shopkeeper mixes the ghee with oil before selling. They all do not settle the wages of their workers, and they stare at her wistfully when they meet her. Now, what this? They privately violate the conditions, laws that they publicly talk about. Now, this alludes to the Buddha's words. It is by one's action one becomes either noble or ignoble, and not by his birth. But it's the irony of our society. Birth is given importance, whether the person is high caste or low caste, not by his deeds. So, although they claim to be high birth, they maintain no qualities to substantiate such claim because they are up to all types of mischief. Now, another point which we come to know after reading the story is male-dominated society. Okay. Then the conversation between the two women, if you remember, we discussed earlier, the conversation between the two women who meet at the well sheds light on another dimension of the social class. The topic is male chauvinism. Now, the husbands treat the wives as slaves and the wives lead their lives in miserable circumstances. This shows that the women in this society are no different from those untouchables. This obviously levels an attack on the institution of Brahmanism that compels its male members to consider women dirty. So, ironically, these suffering women do not show any sympathy towards the untouchables, even though they are in the same plight. But they also don't show any respect, any sympathy towards the untouchables. Now, children, there is a question to introspect. Is Thakur's well still a relevant narrative in present discourse? So I want all of you to ponder over this and come to an answer. So before leaving, there are a few questions which will help you to understand, to check your understanding, how much you have understood the lesson. So there are a few questions, children, which you need to do. So hope all of you will be able to do the questions. So that was all for the day, children. Hope all of you will be able to understand and do the questions. Thank you, children. Have a great day ahead.